under cold Midwest skies. Something lurks through the dark. From the rolling hills to the flatlands, they move through the fields. They are Cryptids of the Corn.
All right, guys, welcome back. I'm Justin.
And I'm Jay.
And this is Cryptids of the Corn. This week, we're going to do something we're going to call the Midwest Cryptid Mashup.
There we go.
So, every once in a while, we're going to pull a couple of these cryptids that are real interesting, but there might not be a lot on them. So, it's like, you can't do a full episode on it, we can't. So, we're going to put 2 or 3 of them together.
Little short stories.
Yeah. And see, not taken away from the story, but they may have only been seen once or twice, or there's just not a lot of reports from the area they came in. Anything to say, Jay?
I'd say let's get into it.
All right. Our first guy is going to be Sinkhole Sam, and he's up in my probably top 5 favorite cryptids now, for no in particular reason.
He's definitely in the top 5 at names.
Yeah. I think that's what the big selling is.
Yeah, it's just fun to say.
So, Sinkhole Sam, he is from Inman Lake, also known as Sinkhole Lake.
State.
Kansas.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah. So, he's from Inman Lake, Kansas. The lake is also known as Sinkhole Lake. That's how he got his name. It is let me make sure. Yeah, it is the biggest natural lake in Kansas left. And yeah, I'll read you a little thing about the lake. And then we're also going to talk about Kingsman State Lake, which is about 50 miles straight north in Kansas. But that's a different guy. Lake info. Inman Lake is a small lake in Mac Parish in County, Kansas. It's 2.5 miles northeast of the city of Inman. Surface area approximately a quarter of a square mile. It's the largest natural lake in the state. Yeah, that's pretty much that. It's a giant part of the McParish Valley wetlands. It's a humongous wetlands. It's super important for waterfowl migration. It's up there it's a giant stopping spot for waterfowl migration. A little history about the area. Kansas, before we got there, is basically all one big wetland. When you think of Kansas, what do you think of?
Right. You think of cornfields and flat.
Yeah, the grasslands.
Yeah.
And Kansas is a crater. They're called it's crater hole, pothole. They're full of pothole lakes.
Oh, okay.
Which are these tiny little lakes, but they're everywhere, and a lot of times they're interconnected. So, I know in
what do you mean under the ground interconnected?
Most of the time not. No, it's like surface water, like wetlands.
Oh, okay.
So there's like little streams and stuff feeding into each of them.
Gotcha.
So your populations of invertebrates and fish are shared
amongst all those.
Yeah. They're not a closed system. That has dramatically changed over the last 200 years. Mm-hmm. But Kansas Inman Lake is the largest natural lake left. So that kind of gives you a little credit if something big is living in there, which we'll get to. So the descriptions of Sam, he is rather large, 15 feet in length, most of the descriptions, sometimes 10, sometimes 20, so most of them say 15. Around 2 foot in diameter.
Okay.
So that's, everybody, we're holding up our hands to show.
Yeah.
I know that helps you guys at home. It's 2 foot. It's
Short.
It's about as wide as a person.
Yeah.
Dark in color, and some reports say a segmented body, like an earthworm.
Okay.
Some reports don't. It kind of gets tossed back, more snake-like or more worm-like.
So what, like one or the other?
Yeah.
Okay.
And a lot of people end up calling him a big snake, but I think that's more because of the body plan. It's basically a big long tube,
yeah.
So it's a worm or a snake.
But it's in the water, like underwater.
Yeah, he's aquatic.
Okay.
There was a little story. I didn't put it in because there wasn't much on it. But he has been seen on like beaches and stuff.
Like up on the beach?
Yeah,
Okay.
not very far from water.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll talk about a possible culprit that likes to do that.
Mm.
You don't know it. I guarantee you don't know it.
I can't.
I guarantee 99. Are any of you a biologist at home? You may know this animal. If not, they're so secretive.
Is it some sort of salamander?
Ooh. Technically, no.
Oh, okay. My one shot in the dark.
Not too far off. But, like I said, Kansas was really lakes, rivers, small streams, wetlands. It was completely covered in water. And there are a lot of caverns that people believe are connected to Sinkhole Lake.
Okay.
So, people have their own versions of where Sinkhole Sam originated from. A lot of people think he's from the caverns.
Underneath the ground, okay.
Our first real accounts are from the 1920s. They don't really have any hard dates. I went on a couple different websites and stuff, and they kind of hop back and forth, so I just said in the 1920s.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Because I know they were all in the 1920s,
so,
but it's arguing whether it's 21 or 22 or 20, you know.
Yeah.
They came from two fishermen that saw the creature in the Sinkhole Lake. And that's pretty much all they said. They seen a big serpentine animal swimming around. Excuse me. They weren't scared of it, but they did see it. Following this event, as far as I can understand, that same year, just a little bit later on in the summer, Albert, you know how good I am with names, Newfield and George Rieger also claimed to have seen the creature, claiming it's 15 feet long and is round as an automobile tire.
Okay.
This is the 1920s. So.
Oh, so you got to kind of factor in what their tires look like.
A little smaller.
Were they?
Yeah, because they were really big at first, and then they got kind of small.
Gotcha, okay.
A lot of locals theorize Sam is some kind of prehistoric creature that got left because it's the last giant natural lake in the Midwest, the West, you know.
Oh,
so it could be a holdout. Sightings have basically slowed down and eventually stopped in the 50s, leading people... It's just so weird. People think he either went back in the caverns, he left, or he died.
Died, yep.
And there's a lot of tiny little reports I didn't add because I'm trying to make these things a little more streamlined. Sinkhole Sam is very much talked as a real creature, not like how people talk about Bigfoot and stuff like that. I know it's a real creature, but, you know, people talk about Bigfoot as a fun, fun subject, not a biological subject. A lot of the locals seem to really just think, like, yeah, you've seen Sam, okay.
Right, yeah.
That's why nobody did anything about Sam. Like, we're going to talk about a bonus little creature here in a second that people seem to care about, and neither of these creatures did anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Sinkhole Sam didn't attack anybody, didn't do anything aggressive. He swam by a couple boats.
And that's it.
Yeah. And, yeah. So, keep in mind, this is 100 years ago.
That's crazy.
Because when I start talking about some other things, I want you to remember the time. Alright. We're going to talk about a similar creature that's only less than 50 miles away in the same watershed.
Okay.
So, feasibly, a larger creature, not like a whale, but a larger creature could traverse these to get to each other. And this is the Kingsman State Lake. It's about 50 miles south of Inman. I might have said north, or there it's south. The State Lake, while not a naturally occurring lake, was formed. Basically, they took a naturally occurring marsh and made it a lake, like we did with the Indian.
Or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Indian Lake's by us in Ohio. That's how it was. It was a natural lake that we expanded on. We took out the wetland that was around it and made that a lake, too. Both in the early 1900s and in the late 1960s, several accounts of large snake-like animals were reported. Eyewitnesses accounted the snakes of varying size. Some have said it was the size of a large python, and others had said that it was a girth so large that even a tractor could not run it over. So then you're talking about like a snake with the head of a Volkswagen. in the late 1960s, a large search for large snakes was conducted in the area and surrounding wetlands. No snakes other than known native species were found. A lot of people started believing that this was a escaped python.
That just grew and grew and grew?
Traveling circus and stuff had rock and Burmese pythons that were 20 foot long.
Oh, okay.
So, some people kind of knew that there was these big snakes out there already.
Yeah.
So I think by the 60s, that's what they jumped onto. They were looking for a python.
Yeah. It's believable enough story.
The
easy.
20s, there were still pythons in circuses, but it was very, very rare to even see one, let alone, you're in Inman, Kansas, to know that a python exists.
Right.
And then, 40 years later, they knew these creatures existed. The creature has never been given a popular name. The people of the area did not like it.
Okay.
This was not a fun thing.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why. I never found any reports of it hurting, killing livestock. I never found any reports of it doing anything.
Mostly just people seeing it and being scared.
People didn't like a big snake.
Yeah.
But some people believe that Sinkhole Sam and the Kingsman Lake Monster are the same animal, and if not the same species. A lot of people from Inman latched on to the Kingsman and think that's where Sam moved. They fully believe that's Sam.
Yeah.
They don't. Some think it's the same species, but a lot of people think that is Sam.
The same creature and everything.
He just moved on.
Yeah.
Over time, such snakes have really gone down. However, the Kingsman Lake area has had Mothman, Bigfoot, mysterious creatures in trench coats have all been reported.
Mysterious creatures in trench coats?
Yeah, figures and creatures. They kind of. So I think you get in like an Injured Cold vibe. Looks very human, but when you're looking at him, you're like,
yeah,
you're not a person.
Yeah, something's off.
Yeah, in the Kingsman State Lake area. And that's pretty much it for the stories.
Yeah.
Like I said, that's why I kind of added the Kingsman Lake, because there's just not a lot to Sinkhole Sam. I love him. I love him to death. There's a couple early depictions of him, not comic book art.
Sketch drawings. Yeah.
And he just looks so happy.
Like a big smile on his face or something.
And it's very weird how he gets described, because I'm going to talk about some stuff here in a minute. I won't jump ahead. So, real quick, we're just going to talk about the Kingsman Lake area. Maybe a portal area. And if you run these circles, you know what that is. Basically, a lot of people believe that some or most cryptid creatures, mysterious things, UFOs, may be interdimensional. And we have these spots that are kind of like weak spots. And stuff kind of pours through. But it seems very weird to have everything from like an Injured Cold to Mothman, Men in Black, and Bigfoot.
To Sinkhole Sam and big worms.
Big worms and snakes.
Yeah.
In this area. So that's what I got to say about it. It may be a portal area if you believe in that. I don't know about this area being a portal area. I think there may be something to that theory. I don't know about this area because I feel like it just is really... It's weird. It's weird, but it's not like... Woo.
Not woo-woo weird?
Yeah.
It does make you kind of think about all the areas that do have like the high activity with what that could be considered portals. Usually the common things are as running water and things like that in the area. So
it does have a lot. It has it's underground caverns with water.
Yeah. Well, you wonder what's going on under the surface.
So, yeah. It's just something maybe we'll even go into in a different episode. Really look into portal areas, and this may be one of them. But I just wanted to bring that up because I knew somebody at home would think about it too. And as soon as I seen Mothman, Bigfoot, mysterious figures in trench coats, Men in Black, and a giant worm,
something's afoot here.
Yeah, Tremors.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
I love Tremors.
Tremors 1 and 2.
Graboids.
Huh?
Graboids.
Graboids?
Yeah, that's the name of the worms.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. It's been a while since I've seen that movie.
So, the possibility of Sinkhole Sam being a hoax? Probably not. Only reason I say this is that it was really talked about like a common animal. It didn't really do anything in the papers. Nobody like got famous from this. Nobody wanted to be famous from this. Nobody came out and kept telling their Sinkhole Sam story. You know, what was it? Albert and the other guy were like, you know, they said like, yeah, we've seen him.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the vibe I got off the whole situation. Nobody, how do I say it? Nobody cared.
Or yeah, no one wanted to make it like their story or their thing where
they didn't think about it like that. It's like a guy in Arkansas seeing an alligator.
Yeah.
Yeah, I seen an alligator.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, there's not a lot of alligators, but there's alligators.
Right. Yeah.
So a famous thing you're going to get with me, and it seems like I'm not doing it on purpose, but I did a lot of biological work before this. So it seems like every cryptid, you're getting a biology lesson. So I have a whole group of creatures that could be Sinkhole Sam, and I'll just kind of describe them to you. This is, I'm not too confident on any given one of these, except one. Okay, one fits Sinkhole Sam's description perfectly, but they don't get that big, and they're not native to America. But I just think it's weird that it's like the same animal.
Huh.
We're going to talk about greater sirens. And anybody at home, you want to look these up? Greater siren, just type in greater siren salamander. They're not salamanders.
Ah.
But if you don't type that in, you'll get like a police siren or something.
Mm.
So a siren is an amphibian. So they are an amphibian, but they're not salamanders. They are extremely long, tubular bodies. Basically like a big long sausage. Greater sirens get up to 5 feet long.
Okay.
They do have gills on their head, and they only have front little tiny legs. They don't have any back legs. So
Like
it's basically a snake with gills.
Almost like a mud skipper?
Yeah, but a lot bigger.
Well, yeah.
And tiny legs.
Okay.
Historically, they were very close to this area in Kansas. And these... I'm going to talk about another species here in a minute. They're very cryptic animals. So that means even we know where they are extremely hard to find.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, the reticulated siren, which is a animal out of Florida that gets just as big as the greater siren, was just discovered in 2016.
Oh, wow. Discovered?
Yeah.
Oh.
One guy caught one in the 70s, a herpetologist, which is the study of reptiles and amphibians, caught one in the 70s and tried to write a species description and could not catch another one.
Hmm.
So they got written off as a greater siren with a weird color pattern.
Hmm.
And then they found a couple more of them in 2016.
Wow, that's...
In a swamp
like
where they were
40
doing
years.
salamander research.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So that rare.
Yeah. They
That's
were looking
pretty
for him.
Yeah.
And they couldn't find him.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
And I went out to catch them in Arkansas, Louisiana, and in areas where they were at.
Yeah.
And they're extremely hard to catch.
Did you ever find any?
No.
Okay.
And I tried. Me and Nick tried a lot.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah.
And they're just hard to catch.
I mean, you tried to catch a Great Lake monster.
Yeah, well, I only tried that once, and the hook got stuck. This I ran probably 50 traps for him over a week and a half.
Mm-hmm. Never got one.
Never got one. I had everything else in these traps, from a raccoon to a bowfin.
Oh, nice.
And the hole's like 2 inches wide, and there's like a 2-pound bowfin in there.
Yeah.
I think a redneck put that bowfin in there because in Arkansas I'm known as the bowfin man.
Oh.
So I think he found one of my baskets and put a bowfin in there.
Just to mess with you?
I think he did, which is fine. I get it. The next animal, which is just as cryptic, it's called an amphiuma.
Amphiuma.
Amp.
Oh, amp.
Fee.
Fee.
Yum.
Amphiuma.
They're another salamander, or not a salamander. They're another amphibian.
Mm-hmm.
Good luck spelling that, guys. They get upwards of 5 to 6 feet long. They are extremely warm, like even in color. They have a very slender head with almost no eyes, but it's almost a dog-shaped head, which Sam gets drawn at like sometimes. They get big. They will go onto land to get food.
Okay.
But they look just like an eel or a worm. Their legs are vestigial, so they just have these tiny little nubs.
Okay.
They look like nothing.
Yeah.
They will bark. They don't have vocal cords, so they'll actually fill up their lung, and then they'll like squeeze it out real fast. So it sounds like a bark. I had one as a pet for a while, and
did?
it'd come out and eat and go back in the tank. We got rid of them because they would break out.
Wow. How long ago did you have this?
It was a couple years ago.
Okay.
I had 2 of them.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
Yeah, they're pretty neat. They're cool animals. They are extremely cryptic and hard to find. They are a lot more common than sirens, though.
Yeah.
In numbers. There are actually species of snake that's almost their exclusive diet is amphibian.
Oh, wow.
And there's 1-toed amphibian, 2-toed amphibian, and 3-toed amphibian, and they get bigger the more toes they have.
Interesting.
So, and then again, historical range puts them close to the area.
Never even heard of this creature.
They're both wetwood animals. They love that kind of stuff. Another one, American eels. They get 6 foot long. Very worm-like, snaky. Native to Kansas. It just, yeah, I had to throw that out there. We talked about American eels last episode.
For Sinkhole Sam, did you give a description on how long it was?
15 feet.
15 feet? Okay.
And I'll talk about that at the end here in a second. The other one is escaped pythons. It is a chance. It has happened, obviously. That's why there's such a big problem with it in Florida and Louisiana and stuff. It'd be really hard in the 20s. Not impossible. But it could feasibly happen.
Yeah. Now, do pythons, they swim in the water?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
They love water.
Oh, okay, cool.
And there's stuff like boas, which do get just as big in most cases. They love water, too. They love water.
Yeah.
They're fine with it. They can hold their breath a long time. They can sit right at the bottom.
Oh, okay.
Another one I'm going to talk about is another amphibian, and they're called Caecilians.
Celians?
Caecilians.
Caecilians?
Yeah.
Okay.
With a C. Caecilian. They look identical to the sketch. They're the only amphibian that has segments to the body.
Oh.
They look like big worms. There are ones that are fully aquatic. There are ones that are terrestrial. There's one that are both. They're in South America. They're in Asia. And they're in Africa. They are not in the U.S. and they're not in Europe anymore. As far as we know of.
Yeah.
Fossil records for them is very hard. There's just not a lot to them. They're crazy. They're crazy animals. Look them up. That is a possibility for Sinkhole Sam is some relic population of North American Caecilians. I think it'd be more likely he's a giant species of eel.
Yeah.
Than that.
Why is that? Why do you think? What makes you come to that conclusion?
Because we don't have any fossil records for any Caecilians getting that big, and any Caecilians being here.
Okay.
But we think when Africa and South America split is why there's Caecilians in South America and not North America.
So it's an old creature.
Oh, they're very, very old. They're very basic.
Are they still around?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've had them before.
As pets too?
Yeah. They are venomous. They're crazy. They got glass teeth.
Glass teeth?
Yeah, they have a crystalline tooth structure.
Wow.
You know the chest burster from Alien?
Yeah.
That's what they were modeled after.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And they smile.
Oh, that's not creepy.
They always have a smile.
Yeah, not at all creepy.
And Sinkhole Sam's always painted with a smile.
Yeah.
And people don't know that. They actually always smile. It's just how they look. That's how their jaw is designed. So they're always...
Resting...
No eyes.
Smile face.
They do have eyes, but they're under their skin.
Under the skin?
Yeah, it's weird. They're weird animals.
So they sense more or can they see, or...?
Nah, I don't understand how they exist. I think they're their own thing.
Well, it's an old world creature.
And they're around. They fill their skin with when they have live babies. When they are about to have birth, they'll fill their skin, their outer layers of skin with fat, and that's what their babies will eat.
Oh, okay.
Is their mom's skin.
Yeah.
So they literally look like they're ripping their mom apart.
Right. Yeah.
They're horrible little monsters.
Wow.
Yeah. If anybody thought that cryptids are weird, I guarantee you 100% there's real life animals that will blow your mind.
Yeah, they're just as weird, if not weirder.
Weirder. There's nothing that's a cryptid that I can think of that's below, like, supernatural levels that you can't explain with nature.
That's not out of this world.
Yeah. This world has produced life forms that we don't even understand to this day. But that's enough for the biology lesson. All right, Jay, what's your thoughts on Sammy?
Well, I don't know what the creature is, although that last one, the Caecilians, And that sounds pretty. First of all, I've never heard any of these creatures, or a couple of these that you're describing that could be. Never even heard of them, which is a pretty fun little thing. But if it's 15 foot long, which maybe it wasn't that big.
Oh,
maybe.
That's what I was gonna say. Is that first off, people are horrible.
Yes.
With sizes. Second off, people are worse in the water with sizes.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
There's a guy that was describing an 8-foot pike to me.
8-footer.
Yeah. Like, okay.
Well, I guess you never know what it could have been.
I mean, you never know. It was an 8-foot. It
Right.
was an 8-foot.
Yeah, or it wasn't a bike.
Wasn't a pike. You seen an alligator or something.
Yeah, maybe there's a big sturgeon that came up. I don't know.
I mean, maybe. People have a lot of trouble, especially when they get excited.
Oh, yeah.
Realize what they're looking at.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm sure I'm even guilty of that.
I'm a fisherman. It's what you do.
Been to the aquarium. That shark was 12 foot long.
Mm-hmm. It's really, 7.
Right, exactly.
It's bigger than you.
Yep, that's all you know. That's big.
So amphibian and sirens do get 5 and 6 foot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, pythons, they get 15 foot pretty easy.
Yeah.
So that's not even out of the question for them, being that size.
And they can slither on the land and move around like no problem.
They only gonna make it one winter though.
What's it? What on land?
Like they're gonna die in the winter.
Oh,
so
yeah.
that'd be a 1-year deal.
Oh, okay. So it probably wouldn't grow to 15
In Kansas, yeah. Well, I mean, if it was a 15-footer that escaped,
Yeah.
because they don't normally have the little guys for the shows. It would be.
Well, true, yeah.
You want the big ones.
Okay. Well, I don't know what the creature could be, other than it's just its own thing. That's not even on your list of things. It could be.
This is just some natural animals that exist that kind of fit that description.
Yeah. Which, yeah, I mean...
And I more do that, not saying that this is what Sinkhole Sam is. I just do it to show people that there are animals you probably don't know about that are real, that are out there.
And that just happened just now.
Mm-hmm.
But, I don't know, it's a cool little creature, and the name is the coolest. Mm-hmm. I'm more interested in the caverns and stuff that connect underneath and all that, because...
They're not very explored.
Yeah.
They're fully submerged in water, as far as we can tell. Okay. So it's not one we can go in and look around.
Right, yeah. You ever hear about, it's like in China, I think, it's called like the Longyu Caves. It's like a cave system.
I probably have, I just can't think of it.
Well, the legend is like, they always talked about in this like small area, it's like, I think a very rural town in China, and they talked about these lakes out there, and they said they were bottomless or endless, and like there was one guy that just was obsessed over it. And he decided to like gather up the town, like money from the town and the people and stuff, and to buy a pump to pump out the lake, and just to see what was down there, see if it really was endless. And I guess he pumped it, for days, and finally the water was lower, and he got down in there. Well, when he got down in there, it was like a fully carved out like cave, like with people on the walls, like doing like big like pillars and stuff carved out. Everything was just like you'd see like in the old like and.
Is that what the terracotta soldiers?
Nope, not that.
Okay.
Nope. I know what you're talking about.
Because they were buried in mud or something.
Yep, they were, yeah. And they're all like, those terracotta soldiers are all like 7 foot tall.
They're big.
Like they're really big, yeah.
They might be bigger than that.
And I think so.
Because I've seen pictures of people and they're like
towers. And they're all individually like unique, which is pretty awesome. But this one's called Longyu Caves. I'll show you after. But anyways, like those caverns, like if they're all connected, who knows where they come from? But when you get into like the interdimensional stuff and trying to compare that to like what we think of as biological reality, I guess how we perceive the world, what's underneath, you don't know. I guess we don't really know what the world is, what it's made of. But when you get into like that interdimensional stuff, it's hard to explain. It's even hard to think about in your head. But like if you get down under the ground and where these caverns are, you don't really know what's going to and from the other places. I think like that opens up a potential for that to come from a different dimension or some other realm of reality that we're not used to like delving into or exploring.
And I do think there may be a lot of cave life we don't understand. Another salamander, or another amphibian, the Olm of Russia. Olm?
Okay.
OLM.
Okay.
They, as far as we know, they don't. We don't know how old they are. People estimate that most of the individuals we have witnessed are around 100 to 250 years old.
Mm-hmm.
We've only ever seen one lay eggs once, and we observed her for 75 years, and she's never been with a male. So they either hold genetic material that long for males, or they're asexual. We don't know. There's only a little handful of these things. They eat twice a year, if that.
Mm-hmm.
Russians, the only reason they're still around is that Russians first discovered them the early, and I'm going off the top of my head, but the early 1600s.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And thought they were baby dragons.
Okay.
Because they're basically like 4 or 5 foot long white axolotls that are thin as a bone.
Yeah.
They're like stretched like Slenderman.
Yeah.
And Russians were like, okay, this is a cave of baby dragons. We got to get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
And there's actually a little pile of gold and stuff at the front because people would offer them stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, to appease them to go through the area. They really fully believe for hundreds of years that this is the lair, this is where dragons go to breed.
Mm-hmm.
And they never had an issue with dragons. So they took it that the gold was working.
Right, yeah.
Like, okay, we're allowed to pass, just give them something.
Right.
Well, yeah, and that's the only reason this species survived into modern days. Because I think it was originally discovered, they were looking for drinking water.
Mm-hmm. They found the cave.
And they found drinking water, but they left it alone.
Yeah.
So that was some very strong beliefs to not take advantage of a resource like that.
Right, yeah. And look, they're still around today because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's why Bigfoot's so superstitious. Keep them around.
That's a whole nother... I don't want to get into the Bigfoot topic today because we don't have the time for this.
Yeah, okay. We'll stick to Sinkhole Sam and...
Because Bigfoot is just an enigma wrapped in a mystery.
Yep.
Wrapped in government conspiracy.
That's true. 100% true.
All right. Any other thoughts on Sammy?
The last thought I thought was interesting was that it stopped in the 50s. Okay, I haven't seen something since then. I wonder if it's just not as reported, too, now. I wonder if people still...
I think they're dead.
Just completely dead or gone?
That's the big problem with amphibian and sirens, for example, is they're quite sensitive. They're wetland species. Wetland species are sensitive to change.
Yeah, I was just going to say it changes. And
so I think that's why they disappeared. Is just because the environment's got a lot worse.
Yep. Too much change too quick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can see that.
And I admit that maybe they were treated back in the caves. Maybe they didn't. I lean more towards that there's some kind of amphibian life, because nobody ever talks about Sam coming up to breathe or, doing anything with the surface. So, amphibians do come up for air. Sirens don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if aquatic caecilians do or don't. They don't have external gills, but they may breathe through their skin. I know terrestrial ones breathe through their skin.
Yeah, I don't know. Interesting. Hope he comes back if he's still out there.
And
his name's too fun just to have him die
Sinkhole
like that.
Sam.
Yeah.
That's going to be my next poster.
Sinkhole Sam.
All right, guys. We'll be back after the break with oil pit squids.
Oh.
All right, guys. We're back with oil pit squids. They're from the Delphi 9 GM plant.
Like General Motors?
Yeah.
Okay.
In Anderson, Illinois, or Indiana. Indiana. I worked a lot in both states, so I get them. So, I'm going to do a description here. So, they're very squid-like. Length is 6 to 8 inches. Diameter about 1 inch. Grayish red. And tentacles, but they're not described as a squid or an octopus's tentacles. They're more like a writhing mass of tentacles.
Okay.
Very odd.
Like a...
Nightmarish.
Almost jellyfishy.
Kind of, yeah. More like a jellyfish, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in February 26, 1997, an anonymous complaint was filed with the Indiana Department of Environmental Management, specifically the Office of Solid and Hazardous Waste. From now on, I'm going to refer to the Indiana Department of Environmental Management as IDEM. So when you hear me say IDEM, that's who I'm talking about. We're also going to talk about the EPA later, Environmental Protection Agency. I don't want to say this 10,000 more times, so those are what these acronyms stand for. Against the Delphi-9 plant, a GMC Plant 9. GM Plant 9. I don't know why I keep saying GMC, because I think it's just GM at this point, right?
I think so.
Yeah. Which included improper disposal of hazardous waste being left and buried on walking trails nearby, open hazardous waste or hazardous material barrels on the property, and the cherry on top was mutated animals in the oil sludge pits. During the investigation by the IDEM, they had found out a worker had captured one of these creatures in a jar, but vanished before it made it back to the state lab for testing. The worker described it as a squid-like creature with lots of tentacles and an almost eye-like protrusion. You
said it vanished?
Yeah. And we'll get into this. I'll backtrack here in a minute.
Okay.
Going back to November of the previous year, 1996, workers were cleaning out the sludge pits, which contained stuff like antifreeze, paint strippers, oils, plastic particles, and other extremely harsh chemicals. And they found these squid-like creatures swimming around in the pit. They fit mostly the main description. Each one kind of has its own little unique description. Each person's seen something a little different, a little bigger, a little smaller, different shapes. The story was picked up by a local paper, the Anderson Herald Bulletin, which is the town it's closest by, by reporter Ken D. Bastide.
Close enough.
Yeah, okay. In March 4th edition, he covered the story. In the March 5th edition, had confirmed that the specimen had been collected. Ken got an internal memo from the IDEM confirming that the creature of unknown origin and type had been collected. So he got a hold of this memo that's not supposed to, so internal memos are not supposed to be outside of the organization. So he got a hold of something, and I couldn't find that, so who knows what it actually said. This is what the reporter said. I just want to make that clear. He never made the memo public. Okay. As far as I could find. So I don't want somebody to go out there and be like, it's right here. Like, I looked for that thing for an hour and a half to make sure. Because I worked with both of these organizations in my previous jobs. So I wanted to see what that memo looked like, because I've got memos for these people. He also talked to a veteran of the plant that worked there for 30 years. Said yes, the creature was captured, placed in a jar where it had died. They had it for several days, but it was stolen. He then stated he was completely shocked that anything could survive in these pits. Sharon Morton. Do you mean to slow down at all?
No.
Okay. Sharon Morton is the spokeswoman for the plant on GM's behalf. She quickly made a public statement saying these creatures were nothing more than a bacterial film that develops in fresh water. I want to make this clear. She said this from her office in Detroit, never have been to the plant.
How convenient.
Yeah. And there is water in these pits. I want to make that clear.
It's not just straight oil.
Yeah, it's all kinds of chemicals.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, there is water too. But yeah, anyways. But she said the bacteria is harmless. Made this from her office in Detroit.
Of course it's harmless.
Joe Lynn Ewing of the IDM stated he was not sure what to make of the creatures, but he was very concerned over the theft and deeply troubled that GM may be responsible for the theft and is hiding something. With growing concerns, their big brother, the EPA, got involved. I'll tell you right now, the EPA is not who you want investigating this stuff if you're on the other end. Because they will get you.
Yeah, you don't want them coming down on you.
They will get you. I've worked with these guys a lot. They have a lot of power. They will get you. So the EPA got involved and got the same story. The squids were not the only problem for the plant. The investigation was going on and it uncovered multiple violations. So they got involved because of the mutated animals. But they found a lot of other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But here's where the story... I know it kind of been quick. Here's where the story kind of goes for a ride.
Yeah.
On March 12th, the IDEM and EPA and other scientists were present and authorized the complete clean-out of these pits. So we have at least 2 organizations plus some other public field scientists authorized. They wanted to see what was in these pits. I couldn't find dimensions, but they're quite large.
The pits are?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They completely cleaned out the pits. They see nothing like what was previously described. No mutants, no monsters, no aliens. The IDM representative stated that they were there before, during, and after the clean-out and witnessed nothing. So once they got involved in early March, they didn't leave the site. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's still only mid-March, so it wasn't like they were there for a ton of time.
Right, years.
But he stated he feared... this is Joe. He stated that he feared that all the evidence of these creatures were destroyed when they cleaned out the pit originally in November. So that's when they first kind of seen them, as they were doing a pit clean out. That's when one got put in a jar, and the rest of them probably went down into a containment vehicle and taken off site. After this, mysteriously, all cases involving the plant with the IDEM and the EPA were closed, including the wrongful handling of hazardous materials and unsafe work environments.
Oh, wow.
Everything. It's like a switch. They didn't find these squids, but they had evidence of other wrongdoings.
Mm-hmm. And those were still brushed under the rug.
So that's the story, roughly. I trimmed a lot of little stuff.
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now, the EPA always gets their man.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't care if they only had wrongful handling of materials. They're going to get you.
Yeah.
And for me, that's the weirdest part. The EPA backed down.
Yeah, that's weird. Very weird.
The IDEM, once the EPA gets involved, they take a back seat.
Well, how big is GM?
It's giant. But this is right after what year did the Clean Water Act come out? Was it the 90s? Was it 96?
Yeah, but
so this is right when EPA got all of its power and was really pressing down on things.
But it makes you almost wonder who is giving them the power in the first place. Where's it coming from? Is it coming from corporations like GM, where it's their turn to get investigated, and then something like this happens where never mind.
I think that it could be something like that. I think it was the EPA was really gunning on these things.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about, maybe, we'll wait, I'm going to save that for final thoughts, what I'm going to say.
Okay.
Because it kind of involves the next stuff.
Yeah, okay.
So, but everybody was looking for these creatures. A bunch of site personnel said they seen them, and they were really weirded out by them. They didn't like them. They were, how to explain, hard to look at.
Okay.
Turning your stomach.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's what a lot of people say, mutant stuff. Like I said, I've worked with the EPA a lot. I worked with the IDEM, not as much. But I worked with federal EPA a lot, and I worked with Ohio, Indiana, and Illinois state EPAs. There are state branches, and then there's the federal guys. I worked mostly with the federals.
Oh, okay.
And I worked with Federal Fish and Wildlife. I wasn't an employee for many of these groups. I worked for a third-party entity that did sampling and data collection for these groups.
Contracting, basically.
So I worked with these guys. It's just odd that everything stopped.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts before I go on?
Well, as far as the EPA or the creature itself?
All of it.
Oh,
talk for a minute.
I think it's a interesting story. It made me think of, I wrote it down here, it made me think of The Simpsons with the mutated fish and stuff are outside the plant, where it's literally pouring right into the little lake and they're finding these mutated creatures. Is this inspiration for that? For that episode?
It could be. The Simpsons normally do everything off of...
Right, or did The Simpsons see this? I have to see when that episode came out when those fish were first introduced, but did they predict this again or something? Is this another...
I think that episode came out, or that movie was a movie. The Simpsons movie.
With the mutated fish?
Yeah, well, when they put the dome over the city.
Oh,
the EPA came involved.
Oh, true. Well, but, I mean, there's old episodes.
Yeah, they do have the mutated fish forever.
Yeah, it's been around for a while, so I wonder which one came first, you know?
Could be.
The Simpsons are always ahead of it.
They predict everything.
Exactly, but that's what this initially made me think of was that because, and then I think they came in and like Mr. Burns and stuff had to like shut down like no, don't investigate this. It's like it's nothing to see here. This is all fine. It's normal and it's safe.
Other thing I'll tell you is that it seemed to be like a lot of double talking in this story, and that is because you have the IDEM, and the EPA involved. And inside their self, they're probably not talking to each other. I'm gonna be honest; these groups don't really talk to each other. They it almost seems they're always duking it out to see who's getting what. Because it was originally the IDEM's case, and then the EPA swooped in. So you get one report says, it was stolen. Yeah, it went missing. Some say it was on its way to the lab when it went missing. Some say that they never received the specimen to begin with. I
was going to ask that too when it went missing. I was thinking in my head like it disappeared, like it
got out.
Like it got out, but
and that is a possibility, and I'll talk about that here in a minute.
Okay.
Because the thing I'm going to talk about is I don't want to ruin it. But I want to talk about when the IDEM labeled creature of unknown origin and type has been collected. That, I think, their story is they had it, and then it got lost in transit or whatever. When you collect stuff, no matter what group you're collecting stuff for, if you cannot ID it in the field, and I work with fish mostly, but there's invertebrates and stuff like that. It's mostly invertebrates. It all goes in a jar that says unidentified. And then it goes to a lab to be processed maybe 6 to 10 months later.
That's crazy.
So when you hear, I guess my big point is when you see a jar that says unidentified organism, that's not unusual. That's not like this big crazy thing. And I think like a lot of people grab on the story, that's like the pinnacle. I did this work. I wasn't on an invertebrate team, but yeah, it goes on a jar that says unidentified.
Right.
Because it's unidentified.
It's nothing out of the ordinary.
Like the guys I worked with, yeah, they could sit there and they could ID them all. But that's not. We're in the field. We got other stuff to do. So it's just not. It's a collected, unidentified sample.
Yeah.
I just wanted to put that out there. That's not as big. Once you do this kind of work, that's not as big of a point.
It doesn't actually mean.
It could. It could mean what you think. Like
right. It could, but it doesn't necessarily mean that is what it is.
It's not a big scary term or a big, wonderful term.
Yeah, not the end all be all of the whole case here.
And so you got these two entities that are both speaking out about this one case, and they're probably not talking to each other very well, if at all. They may not be talking to each other at all.
Yeah. They're not sharing notes, comparing notes.
I'm trying to think who I worked with. I think it was the EPA. I can't say what I was doing. But, yeah, they're not the best communicators for projects. They're just not. I think it's just a government thing. They just don't talk to each other. The government has its own problems. I know we don't like the government as much as other people may like it, but even inside own organizations, there are problems. Like they just don't talk to each other. And it just could be because Ted doesn't talk to anybody, and Ted's the only one that gets these papers across his desk. Yeah, because Ted hates all of you.
Right.
But stuff like that.
I mean, that stuff exists. This stuff happens.
Then, anything else? Before I go in.
No, let's keep going on. What?
I have what these are.
Oh, okay.
I'm very confident that I know what this is.
Okay.
I've seen them.
Is that what you're going to say next?
Yeah.
Okay. You want me to guess what I think it is first?
So now you've heard the story.
Okay.
So Jay's going to give his guess at what he thinks these things are. I don't know this for 100%, but I'm 98% sure these are what these are.
I think it is a mutated race of mermaid squirrel frogs No, I have no idea what
I'm gonna
this
write
could
that
be.
down.
Yeah, I just made that up. Okay. But it's either that or it's a squid.
A squid.
The
The Oklahoma octopus.
what?
The Oklahoma octopus.
Oklahoma octopus.
That's a whole nother cryptid.
Oh, okay.
That one killed somebody.
Okay, that'll be a feature episode.
So I'm gonna, like I said, with Justin, you always get a biology lesson in these things, and most of the time I don't say that this is 100% what a cryptid was. This time I'll say it. This is what they were.
Okay.
The second I started reading the story, excuse me, the government's trying to shut me down.
Yep, I know.
They poisoned me. The second I started reading this story and read the descriptions, I knew 100% what this animal was.
Okay.
Like I said, a lot of my work, I checked on the water outfall of nuclear power plants, coal refineries, the worst sewage plants in the Midwest. And every time there was these creatures.
Oh, okay.
That love this stuff. I see them sitting in purely nuclear runoff. I see them sitting in a sludge pit for a coal refinery. It was mostly sulfuric acid and a little bit of water. And they're sitting there loving life.
Yeah.
These creatures, they have a couple names. Most people call them sewer worms, tubifex worms, or leukocyte worms. And that's a big umbrella group. It's not, and that's not a species. Stuff like blackworms, which we've used to feed baby axolotls. They're a tubifex worm, leukocytes. These guys love harsh environments, and they're tiny. They're like hair.
Ah, I think I might have seen a video on these before.
Yeah, I'm sure you have. They are the right color. First off, they're kind of that earthwormy. They can be black, they can be red. They're more of that grayish, grayish pink, grayish red.
Yeah, grayish pink, brown.
They will all the time make these tight knit balls and shapes.
Yeah, that's what I've seen before.
They'll tie themselves, and I've seen them softball and bigger.
Okay.
And they'll tie themselves in these knots so they don't pull apart. I have seen them in the worst stuff where there's no other life. Nothing. They absolutely love harsh environments. These guys will be in sewers. Sewers aren't that bad comparative when I'm talking about coal refineries and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Any little bit of fresh water they have sitting beside these things, they'll be in. It may have took them a lot of time to get into the sludge pits because they're not the best travelers. And then that's probably why they disappeared after they cleaned it out.
Right. Yeah. They cleaned it
They
up.
breed very slowly.
Okay.
Their whole goal is, I'm tough, so I'm going to sit where nobody else is.
How would they have gotten into it in the first place?
A lot of ways. They're in almost every sewage system now. So one wrong backflush or something, or they came up through a drain pipe. People have problems with them coming up through your drain pipes and through your toilet and stuff, and getting in your house.
Yeah, are they?
And they will. So when we talked about the escaping, so let's say you put a ball, like you caught the ball of leukocyte worms, and you can pick them up. You can pick up a ball of them. They're so tightly knit, they don't fall apart like that.
Yeah.
Literally, it feels like a hard mass of meat.
Okay.
It doesn't feel like 10 billion little worms.
Right.
It feels like meat.
Yeah.
And pulsating meat. And you put that in a jar, and you walk away, and I'm assuming they put holes in the lid. These leukocytes will actually climb out of these holes.
Okay.
So they'll form little ladders and get out.
Yeah.
So you come back and the jar's empty.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
So to get back to why the case was probably dropped is that the people they had going investigating did not know what they were looking at or for. That happens a lot with these things. They're just an investigator. They're more looking for the open oil drums. And now there's these things of these mutated squids.
Right, yeah.
Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. And then higher ups got there, and the actual scientists and biologists got there. And they're like, oh my gosh. These, we are looking for monsters. This is in the papers. This is they're sewer worms.
Yeah.
And first off, the people that are higher up and probably have no idea what they are. Like, so then that's probably why the case got shut down really fast, because everybody looked dumb.
Yeah. Okay.
Everybody involved looked very dumb.
Mm-hmm.
And so it probably was some kind of back thing, like saying, hey, we're going to drop this if you fix everything.
Yeah.
Like, you start putting lids on this, here's the issues. We don't want to press anything anymore. Just fix it and be done.
Yeah.
So that's probably what happened.
That can
People
make
at
sense.
home look up these tubifex worms, look at tubifex worm balls. They'll be fully out of water, sitting like a ball.
Yeah.
And they'll actually form defensive circles and tubes and stuff. It's a defensive measure. So the reason they probably didn't see them until they started messing around in the pit is because all these worms are like a mat. And then when they get stressed, they bunch up into a ball to look bigger.
Okay.
And they don't really swim, they can crawl. And I'm assuming that's what they've seen. I'm very confident in this one.
Yeah.
With how everything fell and how everything happened. If anybody else has a different thought, let me know. What do you think about that now, Jay?
Well, it does make a little bit of sense that with everything coming together like that, it does paint a picture. Yeah, it definitely could be that for sure.
And I think it may just because of what I've done and I've worked with these groups and I've seen these animals in person.
I wonder though those worms, like, did they how long have they been around? Do we know?
Those key worms?
Yeah,
forever.
For forever, basically. Since are they there?
They're harsh, and so they're.
Is their job to like get rid of that stuff? Like
no, they're what was the word? They're colonizers. So they're normally first in, first out of new environments.
Okay.
They love the harsh stuff.
Yeah.
We have a couple species that are like that don't compete very well with other things. Like, these guys do not compete with other species very well at all.
Well, what do they eat? And like, what do they live off?
They'll break down pretty much any organic materials.
Does that include, like, I don't know, like...
I'd have to look, like I said, a Ligakeet tubifex worms, that's a big branch.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I bred blackworms, and they ate toilet paper.
Oh, okay.
That's all they ate, is toilet paper.
Wow.
They didn't care if it was bleached toilet paper or not bleached toilet paper.
They
ate toilet paper.
Yeah.
So these things are quite capable of eating a lot of stuff.
Right, yeah. Interesting.
And stuff, I'm not saying they could survive fully in oil or fully in antifreeze or paint thinner, but they're going to hang out in the areas in between where there's a little bit of water.
Right, yeah. And if they can live there and nothing else can, they probably...
That's what they do. They do not do well with anything else in their environment.
Yeah.
That's why you don't see them, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because the fish will just pick them apart. Fish love them. Other vertebrates love eating them. They're super easy. It's basically free food.
Right, yeah.
So they really like stuff where nobody else can live. I've seen them, seriously. A nuclear power plant outflow. And not saying that it was radiated, but it was not the best stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So we test for salinity and our conductivity, which is basically heavy metal dissolution. And we had a site we couldn't actually shock in. I did fish work, so I shocked fish. We had a site we couldn't test in because it was so high.
Okay.
And there's Ligakeet worms there just looking. If you ever see Ligakeet, that's when we start doing our job. When you see Ligakeet worms, you know you're not going to catch fish.
Okay. That's a good indicator.
Yeah, because the only reason they're there is there's no fish.
Right, yeah.
Not saying they are present in systems with fish, but in extremely low numbers, and they live in the soil.
Right.
The only time you see them on the surface of the sand is when they're feeling world confident.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, so they're buried in...
Bury a little bit. They have to come out to eat.
Right, yeah. Okay. Huh.
Any other thoughts on that?
Not a whole lot. I think I fall with you on that one. It makes a lot of sense.
And I don't like being the fuddy-duddy. Because I was real excited. You could ask Jay if you ever meet him. I was real excited to do this one. I just seen the title. I'm like, oh, this is wicked.
Well, when you told me, I was excited.
And then I started reading, and I'm like, oh my gosh. These are friggin' tubifex worms.
Yeah. Well, especially you having history with...
and that's the only reason I know about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's it, because I've done this work. I've been in the sewers. Like, I literally got so sick 2 years ago. Wait, was it last year? 2 years ago.
Okay.
I was out of work because I had a lungworm.
Oh, wow.
I couldn't breathe. And it was last year because it was during COVID. And they kept telling me I had COVID and I wouldn't test positive. And it's because a Vietnamese lungworm was eating me.
What the heck? I don't even know. I was going to ask, where'd you pick that up from?
In the sewers.
Yeah, but yeah. Gosh.
You know, the guy, I went to an infectious disease doctor, and the guy that told me that's what I had was like, yeah, we really only see this in, like, really bad countries like Vietnam, or people that, like, live in the sewer.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah.
That's me.
And he's like, have you been in the sewer? I'm like, yeah. And I had a hole in my waders, and I had a bruise on my toe that was open. He's like, oh, that's how they got in.
Oh, wow.
And, yeah. Then I took a medicine, and it was horrible, and it killed him instantly. It felt like it about killed me, though, too.
I was going to ask you what the medicine was, but we better not discuss that one.
Just a medicine.
Yeah. We won't say any terms that could get us banned.
Yeah, I don't know what... I don't even remember the name of it. Just a medicine.
Mm-hmm. Huh.
It's a one-dose kind of deal.
Yeah, it just shocks the system and gets rid of them.
Mm-hmm. Man. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't get off the couch.
Yeah.
Like,
Good Lord. Yeah, that's scary. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. I couldn't go, to the bathroom. I get so winded. And I'd be coughing up, I'd cough in my lung, and that's what I was doing. I was expelling the eggs.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that's what they do.
Wow. So you spread it. Spread
They
them.
make you cough.
Yeah. Huh. Oh, well, I'm glad you recovered from that or figured it out.
And most people, I don't know how to say this, most genetically European people do not get this.
Mm-hmm.
Even, like, when I had them and I coughed on you, you weren't going to get them.
Okay. Gotcha.
You had to be in a lot of them for a long time. Like hours. Like you're standing in waders that are full of the water that they're in.
Yeah. Huh. Very specific. That's why not much people have it, but you.
Yeah, that was... But, yeah, that's the rub of it.
Good old oil pit squids.
Oil pit squids and sinkhole Sammy.
I think I saw a video of those little worms you're talking about
Most
on,
people
like...
have.
Yeah, and, like, they were like, oh, what's this creature? And they ran the camera down in the sewer system. They found this. What is it?
It looks like a brain.
Yeah.
That's 2 effects worms.
Yep. Huh.
Oil pit squids.
I wonder if people... I wonder why they called them squids, or if that's the closest thing they could relate.
I think it's because they look... I mean, a ball with a bunch of little tentacles come off it.
True, yeah.
You think jellyfish or squid, and I heard a couple times jellyfish come up. Mm-hmm. But the squids is what stuck.
Yeah.
So it's just like a name.
Right. Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure.
It's just, I think it's because they had a bunch of little tentacles,
Yep.
which were the individual worms forcing their way into the ball.
Right, exactly. And it's dirty water anyway, so you're not getting a clear view.
Yeah. You just see these writhing purple-gray masses.
Okay, I could see squid.
Oh, and that's the other thing I was going to say. The writhing, disgusting masses. People that see 2FX worms often get sick.
Yeah.
And that's something deep in our primitive part of our brain that they make us visibly sick.
Interesting. Wonder what that is. That's weird.
It's just because it's a writhing mass of disgusting worms, and they're
Right.
running in such an environment that you're already grossed out.
Yeah.
And there's
That
just
makes
a
sense.
pile of pink worms just turning. It's actually gonna make me gag. 'Cause I'm thinking about other places I've seen them,
Yeah.
and it's normally the smell that gets you, and then they're the sight that's like
With that, along with the
that's the one
smell.
that pushes you over.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense.
All right, so I think it's Jay's turn to do the animal noise, the cryptid noise,
Oh no.
and then you got to do Sam.
Oh,
Sinkhole Sam.
I bet Oh, that's what you want me to do?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I bet Sinkhole Sam. Oh man. What did we decide we thought it was?
I don't know. It could be anything on that list.
True. I don't know. I don't think Sinkhole Sam. But if he's smiling and he made a noise, it'd probably be something like,
I love it. What? Like Tim Allen from Home Improvement. Yeah, that's it. Tim Allen from Home Improvement is what Sinkhole Sam sounds like. So we're over in the swamps of Kansas. Near.
Yeah.
Sinkhole Sam's near.
It's not Tim the Dual Man.
It could be. It could be either.
True.
Tim Allen could be out there roaming around.
He might be.
Tim Allen could be Sinkhole Sam.
Yeah.
You heard it here first. That's a hot take.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I've been Justin.
And I've been Jay.
And we are Cryptids the Corn, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
At the Home Depot, we're dedicated to helping you build the skills that get your home projects done right. That's why we offer free and interactive online DIY workshops. During the live streams, our knowledgeable associates help you tackle your DIY projects no matter your age or skill level. You can learn how to install new single-pole switches, as well as standard duplex and GFCI outlets. Register for free at homedepot.com/workshops. The Home Depot, how doers get more done.